Bobby, you ready? Okay. And I'll text you to know how many people are watching, Bobby, by the way. To call to order the August 18th, 2020 Brooklyn City Board of Education regular meeting. Mrs. A, can you call the roll?
Mr. Singer.
Here.
Mr. Neal.
Here.
Mr. Oper.
Here.
Mr. Slattery.
Here.
Mrs. Barcheck.
Here, can we stand for the pledge, please? I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, now on to Dr. Caleres' report.
Good evening, everybody. Thank you. Just a few items I want to update you with this evening. We'll be welcoming our certified and classified staff back on Monday, August 24th. We'll be starting our week-long professional development for our staff. We will, on that Monday, we will start off with convocation in our field house. And we'll be having, after we get through some of the formalities and the welcome message, we'll be having a keynote speaker, Mr. Jack Berkmeyer, coming to talk with the staff about kind of learning and teaching in this new online remote environment. And Mrs. Kalish and Mrs. Jones and the rest of the administrative staff have done a great job putting together a good professional development week for our teaching staff and our classified staff. Orientation week for our students will begin Monday, August 31st. Principals, I believe that information went out today to families, either today or tomorrow. But all that information on orientation will be going out for that week of the 31st. And then our remote learning will be beginning on Tuesday, September 8th. With our students. Just as a reminder, all of our students will be receiving a device, a Chromebook, so that will assist them with the remote learning. Had a great opportunity today to go to Cuyahoga County Public Library and meet with Kathy Sullivan and her staff, just regarding some of the amazing things they do for our kids. Obviously, they're going to be challenged during this remote learning too, but as we hopefully reopen soon, they offer Homework Club and Hurricane Cafe and some of the programs that have been going on for years. So it was great meeting them. Kudos to her and her staff. Looking forward to working with them throughout the next several years. I have in front of you also they're partnering with the Greater Cleveland Food Bank. And if you can see on the back there, the Brooklyn branch will be 2 different dates and times, September 14th and October 12th. They will be working with the Greater Cleveland Food Bank on some food distribution for families. So I asked them for permission to advertise and talk about that this evening, and I want to do that. They also have a tutoring site which kids can be part of if they sign up for a library card, so I'll be giving that information to families through the distribution of their materials. So hopefully, if parents need that for their students through this remote learning period, they could take advantage of that opportunity. I want to go back to our facilities. Mrs. Neal has done an amazing job prepping for our staff to come back. Floors look great. Custodians, cleaners have done an amazing job. We've added hand sanitizer stations, plexiglass for our office and close quarter areas. So facilities look great. We will be ready for staff when they come back on Monday, and then hopefully soon with our students. Just one last quick update. The governor did revise the mask order for Ohio. So basically saying that our masks that we have now are really the recommended facial coverings that he wants to see in schools. So I know we had communicated that the face shields were a good substitute. I think that revised order changes it a little bit for us. So we will work with our families and our students that may be an issue on, but just wanted to mention that to the board that there's an update with regards to that facial order, mask covering order. Also, the governor today discussed contact sports and reopening them, and basically gave the clearance for that to happen. The big piece for me with that previous order was that there was a COVID testing requirement for student athletes. That has been lifted. We'll talk a little bit about what that means for our students going forward, but basically he came out with that guidance today for school districts in Ohio. So, Mr. President, that is my report.
Thank you, Dr.
All right.
Cordes. Now on to Mrs. A.
Yes, I have a couple of things. Karen Smith did a great job boxing up all of the records that can be disposed of. So I think in the next board meeting, I'll have you guys recommend to approve the record retention so we could get some of that stuff out of here that we don't need to hold anymore. And then I was looking at the 5-year forecast where it had the board recommended transferring $150,000 to the permanent improvement fund. So David did do that before he left. So there is money in there that we will start drawing down for roof improvements.
Thank you.
And that's it.
Thank you so much. Now on to board members and board committee reports. Tonight we're gonna start with Mr. Rick Singer.
Yes, I really have no report, just more of a question to the principals and perhaps to Dr. Claris, is what happened to the summer reading program? Are we following up with that program?
I will find out, Mr. Singer. I'm not really sure. I'll find out about our summer reading program. I believe that program was still intact, but I will find out what the principals did when they left in the spring. So I'll find out and I'll include it in my report to the board.
Okay, I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Thank you. I have no report.
Okay. Now on to Mr. Jim Ober.
Thank you. I have very little report as well tonight. Polaris is going to be mirroring Brooklyn's dates. The teachers will be going out and contacting the students as far as coming in, getting them set up and kind of presenting them with their individual plan. There won't be anything additional as far as transportation or anything like that. It should be able to be covered as far as bringing students in for labs and things like that. That'll be split out. Each teacher has been given the guidance to go ahead and do what they need to do as far as making sure that everything is covered. Obviously, you can't do cosmetology through a Zoom call, so there's going to be some changes, but it should work out well. And that's pretty much all I have.
Thank you. Now on to Mr. Rocky Neal.
My question is for Mrs. A. Do we have a running account of the PPE versus CARES Act monies?
Yes, we do. We have $57,200 of the CARES money. We have already $34,000 of it spent, and the remaining 20 has already been encumbered. So the CARES money that we got for PPE has been accounted for.
Okay.
And I want to clarify, $54,412 is the exact amount that we got for COVID.
Thank you. And then I just want to give a shout out to former board member Bob Hennings. He and I spoke earlier today. I told him I'd give him a shout. Hi, Bob. All right. That's my report.
Thank you, Mr. Neal. Now on to Mr. Rob Slattery.
Very, very quickly, obviously, we have not had any committee meetings for my assignments. I'd just like to say thank you to the parents and ask for continued, and the students' cooperation. We still have a lot to talk about, and things are still kind of developing, so we appreciate your help. That's it.
Thank you. Okay. My report is short tonight. I just would like to remind everyone to update their information on the website, because a lot of the information is going out by email, by cell phone, and by address. And if any of those have changed, we need to have an updated file ready for you so that you can get the information about school startup, the orientation week, and the things going forward. I would like to thank all the summer cleaners who've worked so hard. It's been unprecedented for the whole year, but I'm sure this summer even more so, getting everything ready for school year when we are able to come in person, and everything that they've done. Every summer they're the unsung heroes who get this building looking brand new again for the start of the school year, and they work just as hard this summer, if not harder. I would like to wish longtime residents and school supporters, in a few days, Mr. and Mrs. Colai will be celebrating their 49th wedding anniversary. Congratulations and happy 49th wedding anniversary to them. They were coaches here in Brooklyn, and they've always been big school supporters. That's quite the milestone. I can always be reached at 406-4304, if anyone would like to speak to me about anything. And now on to the approval of minutes and board statements. Tonight's reader is Mr. Rick Singer.
Thank you, Madam President. Be it resolved that the minutes of the July 29th, 2020 Board of Education meeting be adopted, and all action taken by the Board of Education at said meeting is hereby reaffirmed and approved.
Can I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Can I have
Second.
questions, comments?
Should that also read August 10th meeting as well, since that's attached?
Should we, so then would we
Minutes
need to
special
amend
meeting.
it to say August 10th?
We would.
I move to amend the
Yep.
motion to
Okay.
include the August 10th meeting.
Okay,
We need a second.
Second.
second. Thank you, Mr. Operer. Anyone else? Okay. Mrs. A, can you call the roll?
Mr. Singer,
Yes.
Mr. Neal,
Yes.
Mr. Oper,
Yes.
Mr. Slattery,
Yes.
Mrs. Barcheck.
Yes.
Be resolved that the Brooklyn City School District Board of Education hereby approves the financial statements of receipts and expenditures for the month of July 2020 as submitted.
Can I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Can I have a second?
Second.
Questions, comments? Mrs. A, can you call the roll, please?
Mr. Singer,
Yes.
Mr. Neal,
Yes.
Mr. Oper,
Yes.
Mr. Slattery,
Yes.
Mrs. Barcheck.
Yes.
Be it resolved that the Brooklyn City School District Board of Education hereby approves that the district has adopted and is enforcing a nutrition standard policy that considers the requirements of ORC Code 3313-814 and governs the type of food and beverages that may be sold on the premises of the school.
Can I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Can I have a second?
Second.
Questions, comments? Mrs. A, can you call the roll, please?
Mr. Singer,
Yes.
Mr. Neal,
Yes.
Mr. Oper,
Yes.
Mr. Slattery,
Yes.
Mrs. Barcheck.
Yes.
Be resolved that Brooklyn City School District, the Board of Education hereby approves the appointment of Laura Baker, Tracy Spees, and Sandra Neal as the approving and verification officials, and Dr. Theodore Caleres as the hearing official for the Brooklyn City School District Board of Education free and reduced lunch program for the
Yeah.
2020-21 year.
Okay, can I have a motion, please? We'll go back to that one.
So
Can I have a
moved.
motion?
Second.
Okay, second. Questions, comments?
Ms. Barcheck, this is Ms. Singer, this is just required by law that we name those
Okay.
officials working with that
We
program.
missed one.
Yeah, that one up on top. Yeah. Mrs. A, can you call the roll for this one, please?
Mr. Singer,
Yes.
Mr. Neal,
Yes.
Mr. Oper.
Yes.
Mr. Slattery,
Yes.
Mrs. Barcheck.
Yes.
Okay, going back to 4.2, resolved that the Brooklyn City School District Board of Education hereby approves the following cafeteria prices for 2020-21 school year. Grades K through 5 as noted, grades 6 through 12 as noted.
Thank you. Can I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Can I have a-
Second.
Questions, comments?
This is no increase from the previous year.
Thank you.
That was my question.
I was gonna ask if
Thank
that
you.
was. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Anyone else?
They did, they did recommend
If I started lunch
that
here,
we
cut my
increase the
budget in
price a
half.
little bit, but I didn't feel that was
We'll
appropriate
probably
at
have
this
to
time.
vote
So
Yeah.
we may be looking at a small increase next school year, but for this year, it's no increase.
Thank you.
Okay.
Mrs. A, can you call the roll, please?
Mr. Singer,
Yes.
Mr. Neal,
Yes.
Mr. Oper.
Yes.
Mr. Slattery.
Yes.
Mrs. Barcheck.
Yes.
Agreement with the Highland Speech Services Incorporated, be it resolved that the Brooklyn City School District Board of Education hereby authorizes the superintendent to enter into a service agreement with Highland Speech Services, Inc. to provide assessment, therapy, and consultation for speech-language services from January 4th, 2021 through February 26th, 2021, not to exceed 38 days. The agreement is on file in the treasurer's office.
Can I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Can I have a
Second.
second? Questions, comments?
This will be for, excuse me, a long-term sub that we anticipate in January.
Okay. Anyone else? Mrs. A, can you call the roll, please?
Mr. Singer,
Yes.
Mr. Neal,
Yes.
Mr. Oper.
Yes.
Mr. Slattery,
Yes.
Mrs. Barcheck.
Yes.
4.5, agreement with Cleveland Clinic Learner Center, Learner School for Autism. Be it resolved that the Brooklyn City School District Board of Education hereby authorizes the superintendent to enter an agreement with Cleveland Clinic Learner School for Autism for services for the 2020-21 school year. This agreement is on file in the treasurer's office.
So moved.
Have a
Motion.
second?
Second.
So moved. Okay.
Well, yeah, someone.
I got so used to saying.
Questions, comments?
I have a question.
Yeah.
In that contract, it had a date of August 17th for the 2%. Do we normally pay monthly on that, or is it?
No, Mrs. Ahold and I talked a little bit about that. We're still gonna go with the all-in-one option so we can get the discounts. too.
Okay.
So I think we're okay.
Excellent.
Anyone else? Mrs. A, can you call the roll, please?
Mr. Singer.
Yes.
Mr. Neal.
Yes.
Mr. Ober.
Yes.
Mr. Slattery.
Yes.
Mrs. Barcheck.
Yes.
4.6, inter-district service area agreement with the Educational Service Center for 2020-21. Be it resolved that Brooklyn City School District Board of Education hereby authorizes the superintendent to enter into an inter-district service area agreement with the Educational Service Center of Cuyahoga County per the provisions of sections 3313.17, 3313.841, 33.842, 33.91, and 3323.08 of the Ohio Revised Code for the 2020-2021 school year. This agreement is on file in the treasurer's office.
Can I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Can I have a second? Questions, comments?
This is an agreement we do annually with the ESC in terms of ELL services, gifted, some intervention specialists in our preschool, speech and language pathologists. So this is a typical what
It just
we do.
captures everything.
It does, correct.
Okay. Anyone else? Mrs. A, can you call the roll, please?
Mr. Singer.
Yes.
Mr. Neal.
Yes.
Mr. Ober.
Yes.
Mr. Slattery.
Yes.
Mrs. Barcheck.
Yes.
4.7, 2021 student fees. Be resolved, the Brooklyn City School District Board of Education will hereby assess the following school fees for students. Grades 4 through 7, the agenda fee is $10. High school student parking pass, $5. District-wide lost ID, the first ID is free, $5. High school advanced placement test, $90.
Can I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Can I have a second?
Second.
Questions, comments?
I'm not sure if these fees were on the board agenda last year or not, but I wanted to make sure we captured anything that, anytime we take money from students, there's a documentation that we're doing. So with the high school advanced placement test fee, I obviously know that, I know that one was not on the board agenda last year. I just wanted to capture that if a student participates in that advanced placement test, we'll be collecting that $90 from them. What ends up happening is we pay College Board. So just wanted to capture everything that we collect in terms of student fees.
Okay. Anyone else? Mrs. A, can you call the roll, please?
Mr. Singer.
Yes.
Mr. Neal.
Yes.
Mr. Ober.
Yes.
Mr. Slattery.
Yes.
Mrs. Barcheck.
Yes.
4.8, 2021 Brooklyn City School District reopening plan. Be resolved, the Brooklyn City School District Board of Education hereby approves the 2020-21 reopening plan and gives the superintendent the authority to appropriately modify such plan throughout the school year.
Can I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Can I have
Second.
questions, comments?
And this is just really a summary of what we discussed last week at our special board meeting. Thank you again for, I know it was a long meeting, but I really thought it was important to get all that information out. And I think with the flexibility and some of the uncertainty of what this year looks like, we're gonna need to make decisions collectively to figure out how we safely return to school for both students and staff. So this just kinda officially approves our plan.
Anyone else? Mrs. A, can you call the roll?
Mr. Singer.
Yes.
Mr. Neal.
Yes.
Mr. Ober.
Yes.
Mr. Slattery.
Yes.
Mrs. Barcheck.
Yes.
4.9, 2021 Brooklyn City School District remote learning plan. Be it resolved that the Brooklyn City School District Board of Education hereby approves the remote learning plan for the 2020-21 school year per the attachment.
Can I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Can I have a second?
Second.
Questions, comments?
Just want to clarify the difference here. So this remote learning plan is required by the state. and it requires a board resolution. What it does is once we if and when we board approve this, this will allow us to meet by submitting this plan, we are then covered for our instructional hours for the year. You know, typically, state defines how many hours you have to be in school, things like that. Submitting this plan through that remote instruction will allow us to meet that mandate. So even if we fall short on days for whatever reason, we're covered through the remote learning plan.
Thank you. Anyone else? Mrs. A, can you call the roll, please?
Mr. Singer,
Yes.
Mr. Neal.
Yes.
Mr. Ober,
Yes.
Mr. Slattery,
Yes.
Mrs. Barcheck.
Yes.
4.10 textbook adoption cycle. Be it resolved, the Brooklyn City School District Board of Education hereby approves the textbook adoption cycle for the 2020-21 school year per the attachment.
Can I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Can I have
Second.
questions, comments?
This is just memorializing the textbook and the resource and the curriculum plan that we have in place. I wanted to make sure the board saw that going forward. And
Yeah.
obviously, this is a working document that can be modified anytime.
Okay. Anyone else? Mrs. A, can you call the roll, please?
Mr. Singer,
Yes.
Mr. Neal,
Yes.
Mr. Ober,
Yes.
Mr. Slattery,
Yes.
Mrs. Barcheck.
Yes.
4.11 board bylaws, policies first reading. The superintendent recommends the first reading for the following policies and bylaws. 1266, non-discrimination on the basis of sex and education programs or activities. 2266, non-discrimination on the basis of sex in education programs or activities. 3220, standards-based teacher evaluation. 3266, non-discrimination on the basis of sex in education programs or activities. 4266, non-discrimination on the basis of sex in education programs or activities. And 8450.01 on face coverings.
We don't need a motion for this,
Nope.
because it's the first reading. Anyone have any questions or comments before
I
we
just
go on?
want to update the board, so the 1266, 2266, 3266, and 4266 policies on non-discrimination really hasn't changed much. There's been some little tweaks. We're just updating that based on ORC that we need to do that. The standards-based teacher evaluation, 3220, the requirement is that we have to have that OTES 2.0 approved by September 1st. This is basically just doing that for this school year, 2021. We're still doing OTES 1.0. And the facial coverings in 8450.01, that just basically says we're gonna follow the face covering law based on the governor's orders and things like that. So that's just our policy in place on those. Okay.
Anyone else have any other questions? Okay. Go ahead on.
5.1, supplemental teaching assignment 2020-21. And that is the resolve that the board, Brooklyn City School Board of Education hereby approves the following persons for the 2020-2021 supplemental teaching assignments with the provision that such individuals comply with all rules and regulations and State Department of Education regulations pertinent to proper certification and fulfills the requirements of the job description attached to their supplemental contracts. I'm gonna say, as noted here.
Can I have a motion, please?
Thank you. Motion.
Second?
Second.
Questions, comments?
Are we still having a Washington DC trip this year, or?
Well, that's
New
the
York
hope.
trip.
That's the hope. Yeah, that's the hope. I think obviously everything's been moved to the spring. You know, Mr. Sullivan and Mrs. Holko and Mr. Hare have to do some juggling to make sure we don't have any conflicts for kids. And I know the Washington DC trip, but that's gonna really be contingent on the health and safety of students. So, yeah, the plan is right now, but if we could all forecast what tomorrow's gonna look like, let alone what next spring's gonna look like, we'd be in a different place. But yeah, the intention, is to have that, Mr. Singer.
Should we add onto this resolution the Ohio Department of Health or the County Board of Health as far as any regulations? I know the State Department of Education talks about certification. but shouldn't there be an addendum for any of these activities?
I mean, I think that'll go through their licensure piece, because some, like, so, for example, let's just say a coach, for example, they're required to, with their pupil activity certification, to have the concussion training or CPR. I think that's all encompassing, because the Ohio Department of Education will not issue them a certification or a license unless they've met all those qualifications.
So if any of them should be infected with COVID, that would be covered under the licensing?
That I cannot speak to.
Okay.
Yeah, that I cannot speak to.
Mrs. A, can you get us, an account of how much each of these supplementals cost? And send it to each of the board members? Thank you. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Does anyone else have any other questions? So, I have a question now, since Mr. Singer brought up, like, you know, some of the trips. If
Yeah.
they don't happen, what happens to the supplemental?
They won't get the supplemental.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right,
I
so
mean,
then,
I mean, I mean, we're approving these based on the assumption that these are gonna go, but if the Washington DC trip doesn't go, then there's no supplemental attached to that.
okay,
Yeah.
okay, all right. Just wondering how that worked out. Anyone else? Mrs. A, can you call the roll, please?
Yes. Mr. Singer.
Yes.
Mr. Neal.
Yes.
Mr. Ober.
Yes.
Mr. Slattery.
Yes.
Mrs. Barcheck.
Yes.
5.2 classified resignations. Be resolved that Brooklyn City School District Board of Education hereby approves the following classified resignations. Clara Santoro, classroom assistant. Amy Trubisky, classroom assistant.
Can I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Can I have a second?
Second.
Questions, comments? Anyone? Mrs. A, can you call the roll, please?
Mr. Singer.
Yes.
Mr. Neal.
Yes.
Mr. Ober.
Yes.
Mr. Slattery.
Yes.
Mrs. Barcheck.
Yes.
5.3 Cats Employment. Be resolved that the Brooklyn City School District Board of Education hereby approves the employment of Savannah Davila, Cats Site Team Leader, 5 hours per day at $15 per hour.
Can I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Can I have a second?
Second.
Second.
Questions, comments?
So Savannah was a former student of mine, so I feel old. And Savannah will be taking over for Mrs. Colai when she retires pretty soon here. So we wanted to get that approved, so there's an opportunity for Savannah to train with Mrs. Colai a little bit.
Thank you.
Congratulations to Savannah too, hopefully.
Mrs. A, can you call the roll?
Mr. Singer.
Yes.
Mr. Neal.
Yes.
Mr. Ober.
Yes.
Mr. Slattery.
Yes.
Mrs. Barcheck.
Yes.
5.4 Amend Resolution Number 20-06-195 Student Summer Workers. Be it resolved that the Brooklyn City School District Board of Education hereby amends Resolution Number 20-06-195 to reflect the following increase in hours from 5 hours per day to 7 hours per day, effective August 13, 2020, for the student summer workers listed: Joseph Lucanic, Ina Lundy, Jada Woods, Kyle Workman.
Can I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Can I have a second?
Second.
Questions, comments?
We've increased their hours of each day by 2 hours to help assist with Mr. Taylor and Mr. Black in organizing the Chromebook distribution. So a little bit extra manpower to help with that.
Anyone else? Mrs. A, can you call the roll, please?
Mr. Singer.
Yes.
Mr. Neal.
Yes.
Mr. Ober.
Yes.
Mr. Slattery.
Yes.
Mrs. Barcheck.
Yes. Is there any correspondence related to action information? Anyone? Any other business? No? Announcement of the next regular Board of Education meeting is Wednesday, August 26, 2020, in the Media Center, located in Brooklyn Intermediate Elementary School, 9200 Bidoff Road, Brooklyn, Ohio, 6 p.m. And now, resolve that the Brooklyn City School District Board of Education hereby approves entering into executive session for the purpose of the appointment, employment, dismissal, discipline, promotion, demotion, or compensation of an employee or public official pursuant to RC 121.22G for the purchase of property for public purpose or the sale of property at competitive bidding, matters required to be kept confidential by federal law or rules or state statutes. When we leave executive session, we will not be taking any further action for the rest of the meeting. Can I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Second.
Second. Questions, comments? Mrs. A, can you call the roll?
Mr. Singer.
Yes.
Mr. Neal.
Yes.
Mr. Ober.
Yes.
Mr. Slattery.
Yes.
Mrs. Barcheck.
Yes.